are talking NBA Supercoach. Quickly, just wanted to jump on. It's like a late Friday. The NBA season starts next week, right? So I just wanted to jump on, just talk out a little bit of NBA Supercoach, and then we'll do a little bit more at the start of next week before the actual season starts. But this is just to get you primed for the weekend, right? You got to jump on your NBA Supercoach, join the NBA Straya League if you want. The open one, I believe, is 557106. That's your code, 557106. Jump in there. I think we've actually got a couple of spots still left in the Legends League, 638177. So check those out. But most of all, like really, it is all about simply having a look at this NBA Supercoach setup, digging into the numbers and exactly how we're going to like excel and be good at NBA Supercoach. We've got all the knowledge in the world. We get that. But really it comes down to how does that apply to Supercoach, of course. So right off the bat, let's talk scoring for NBA Supercoach. NFL, because you've got the defense, special teams. You've got many different positions. The way they score is all very different as well. That's a little bit tricky. NBA Supercoach is pretty straightforward. It's points, 1 point, right? A point per point. So what does that mean? Well, it means the people who score lots of points, pretty handy. The difference is, though, the missed shot is a -1. So this is one of those interesting ones where we're not counting field goals made. We're not counting all these other ones. But if you miss a shot, that's a -1, right? So your inefficient gunners in NBA Supercoach, I'm looking at you, Jordan Poole, and many others. You're on the list, just saying. But the missed shots, this is where your really super hyper-efficient scorers will excel. This is the folks who are shooting over 50% from the floor. These are the ones who aren't launching 1 millionty threes. And it's the sort of thing where you look at someone like Anthony Simons or Peyton Pritchard in that Boston backcourt, and you sort of wonder about their viability in NBA Supercoach for the simple fact is they'll be shooting a lot, and they'll be shooting a lot of threes. And literally by virtue of the nature of the three-point shot, there'll be a few missed ones in there too, right? So the trade-off of your made three versus your missed shot, if they're hitting at 40%, we can all do the maths. If they're really, really good three-point shooters, they're still very handy in NBA Supercoach. If they're a little bit iffy, just saying, keep an eye on them. A rebound is 1 point. An assist is 1 point. Blocks are 2 points. Steals are 2 points. And a turnover is a -1 point. So obviously your defensive specialists are going to be really, really handy as well, with the 2 points for a block and 2 points for a steal. That is probably why my first picked player is going to be Wemby. Just saying, we're going full-blown stocks. Like that's almost game in, game out. You think about his averages of blocks per game was around sitting, when he was in his pomp, 4 per game. It's crazy, right? Same goes for Dyson Daniels, 3 steals per game. It gives players like that a really high floor when it comes to NBA Supercoach scoring. But outside of this, those are your scoring spots. What have we got on the actual court, on the floor? You've got 2 point guards, 1 on the bench. 2 shooting guards, 1 on the bench. A center, 1 on the bench. 2 small forwards, 1 on the bench. 2 power forwards, 1 on the bench, and a flex. What's going to be the best way that we approach this? It comes down to anything when it comes to basketball and Supercoach, right? Schedule. That is the absolute secret to all things Supercoach and basketball success. For the simple fact, being they play a bunch of games. The schedule comes into play with this sort of cumulative week-on-week scoring system that we have. So you need players who are going to be playing a lot in the time frame you need them to play. So we look at these first couple of weeks of this season and you go, hang on a second, I want to have Josh Giddey in my team. The difference is Chicago only played 2 games week 1. They play 4 games in week 2. They play 3 games in week 3. So you kick that around a little bit. You're like, all right, the first 3 weeks of the season, he's playing 9 games. Conversely, OKC start off with 3 games week 1, 4 games week 2, 4 games week 4. The players that you have from OKC will be playing 2 full games more across the opening 3 weeks of the season than the likes of a team like from Chicago, even Denver, right? Where they're playing, I think, 9 games as well, which is a bit tricky when you go, oh, but I really want to get Jokic. He might be worth another game just by himself. But Golden State has that 11-game stretch in the first couple of weeks. Memphis do as well. OKC. And I feel like that might be the only 3 teams with the 11 games right out of the gate. Oh, Boston's the other one. So that's why Jaylen Brown was one of my first picks. So the way that you've got to look at this, you have to find out exactly how many games your players will be playing, and you want to maximize that, right? So it's like, cool, I want to have Jokic and I want to have Wemby. They were my first 2 pick players. And when I opened up NBA Supercoach, of course, I did the all-Aussie team. And then all I did was play around for like the next couple of weeks trying to figure out my best match of guns and rookies. And landed on a pretty happy spot, I think, at the moment, where you sort of look at the Lakers' schedule. It's not great. You've got 10 games the first 3. It's fine. That's like the second best here. So Luka Doncic was out there as like one of the first ones into my team. Jokic, despite only having the 9 games, his scoring might be still so good because remember, his steals and blocks rate pretty handy on top of his rebounds and assists and his point scoring, and he's wildly efficient. So he's going to be putting up monster numbers almost regardless of the fact that he's playing 2 games less than that first week. Then you get into the likes of like Wemby, etc. He's got 9 games across the first 3 weeks. I'm fine with that, even though it's on the lesser end of the scale. He's going to be so dominating, it might not matter. But SGA was the one that I'm like, right, I'm going to have to sacrifice at different spots because SGA has 3 games week 3, 4 games week 2, 4 games week 3 games week 1, 4 games week 2, 4 games week 3. It's going to get to a point where he puts up such big numbers that you can't basically afford to not have him in your team across those first 3 weeks of the season. You know, we'll be gunning at total points, we'll be gunning at head-to-head wins across this NBA Supercoach season, and you basically need to have him in your team. Jokic, simply by virtue of being priced at $28 million, might actually sort of dip in price from that initial thing, so you could probably look at maybe going sans Joker to roll off the season. You're probably a braver man than I then, or woman, as it were. But I'm probably going to roll the dice with him and just go, right, I trust in how good he is and how efficient he is as well. And that's kind of the thing when it comes to this sort of stuff. SJ, efficient. Luka, the 3 ball, it goes all right. The scoring is just so chaotic, and his efficiency in LA has been a little bit iffy, but his ancillary numbers probably make up for it. The likes of Jaylen Brown, that's another one that just should go absolutely bang. I'm talking about the most high-priced players in NBA Supercoach as well, by the way. If you want to go digging for some actual, like, real good value, there is plenty to have. But the way I've taken my first week approach, the way I'm kicking the tires on this before we get to next Wednesday's tip-off, is a real guns and rookies approach, stacking it with, like, so I've thrown Jaylen Brown in there, SGA, plenty of games out of the gate. We know that Jaylen Brown's going to have plenty of opportunities to score without Jason Tatum. He's going to be the man for the Celtics. And then the rest of it comes down to, like, which rookies do you like? Obviously, Cooper Flagg is one of the most popular players in NBA Supercoach. There's other ones that are pretty underrated, I think, by, like, Reed Shepherd, Con Knippel. One that I've really got my eye on, Josh Minott, there in Boston. They've got no size. He'll probably play right away. He played a bunch in preseason. Don't mind that idea. Tyrese Proctor, our man, as a backup point guard. Just saying. Not bad. Not a bad option with Darius Rucker, Judy Garland out for a little bit to start the season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, really, if you look at the most picked players across the entire Supercoach, it is pretty funny when you go, right, what do we got in terms of, like, who's picked on what teams? It is a really interesting setup, right? You've got Dylan Harper of the San Antonio Banderas Spurs is a really, really popular backup point guard. He might even be starting on your court in place of maybe VJ Edgecombe. We know that Harper is going to have a good couple of weeks to open up the season as well. De'Aaron Fox probably sitting out. He might get the nod for me over VJ Edgecombe. We just don't know what's going to happen there in Philly, but they don't have probably Jared McCain to start the year. They probably don't have Paul George. I love VJ's chances to play hoops. But in terms of everybody else and the way that like all these players are sort of being kicked about, the way that they're being projected, the ownership stats, Cooper Flagg is the most owned player so far in NBA Supercoach, priced at $5 million. He's owned by 66% of coaches. 2/3 of coaches are like, yeah, I've got to get me some Cooper Flagg. It makes too much sense. Ace Bailey is the next, and I love that as well. He's my starting small forward at the moment because I think you're going to get enough production out of him to match that 4.8 mil price point, and you can just play him on the court. The question is whether or not you can do that with a couple of rookies, even 4 rookies in your forward spots. Just saying, that might be where I'm landing at. There's also like the Con Knipples of the world, but like in terms of the top end dudes, Jokic is at 33% of teams, Doncic in 34%, a bunch of other cheapies are there. Wemby is in 30%, Giannis is in 31% of teams, Ant-Man's in 29%. Colin Murray-Boyles, I love that he's in 29%. I reckon he's going to play plenty for Toronto. Booz Ellis there on Chicago, 29% of teams. Nembhard as your starting point guard for the Indiana Pacers. Priced at $9 million, 26.6% of coaches have got him in there. So, look, the strategy, and this is what this little intro chat is really about getting the players that you want to have on your team in your team. I felt really, really good about my team for ages. Then I sort of looked at the schedule, went, righto, I need to maximize this properly and figure out what we're doing. And so suddenly you've got a Boston player where there was not a Boston player. You're getting SGA in. I had to say goodbye to Paolo Banchero. I have a sneaky Orsar Thompson in there with Jaden Ivey out now as well. I feel like he plays even a little bit more on the wings there for the Pistons, probably more boards, a block and steal merchant. The thing is, I also had Amen Thompson in my team for a little bit, but then he had to go by the wayside because Houston play only the 2 games in week 1. They then play 3 games in week 2 and 4 games in week 3. So, yeah, it's a 9-game start spread out across that way. It's a bit tough to sort of swallow. Whereas if you've got 3-3-3 like the Spurs, I feel okay about that because Wemby's going to score through the roof, and so will probably Harper. The Knicks have got 3-3-3. Ant-Man will have the 3-3-4. Milwaukee 3-3-4. This is it. You just need to figure out how many times your guys are going to be playing in that first week. Maximize that. Get the ones you like in the most, and away we go. So guns and rookies are where I'm at. I've got the one mid-pricer really in Orsar Thompson. The rest of it's guns, and then rookies, or at least if not rookies, then, super duper cheapos. So the interesting one, like backup center, is a fascinating question. I've got Kalkbrenner at the moment. He's probably going to play for Charlotte. We've got Tyrese Proctor there as well. Let's make some. We'll find out the cash cows after week 1, week 2. But the cool thing about NBA Supercoach is with all of these games, the cash cows and the movements of these prices for the cheapies are going to be pretty interesting to track because some of them will be playing. Their break-evens are going to be pretty low. Like you look at Proctor across a week, it's at 17. Josh Minott, break-even of 19 across a week. Who knows what's going to happen there? These are really interesting numbers because if they sort of get out there, get a couple of rebounds, a couple of points, they're hitting these break-evens pretty easily, could be rising pretty dramatically. So we're going to look for as much opportunity as we can in those first couple of weeks. For rookies that'll be playing heaps, young dudes who'll be playing heaps, they'll be on the crummy teams, and away we go from there. So, I don't know. It's very exciting. It's very cool. I'll do my team reveal properly on probably Monday or Tuesday next week. At the moment, I've managed to shoehorn SJ and Luka onto it with Jokic and Wemby. Feel pretty good about that. Everything else is still a bit up in the air. Cooper Flagg's still obviously on my team as well. He's on everybody's team at this point. But let me know what you reckon. It's really exciting. NBA Supercoach is here. I've been waiting all my life for this, it feels like, right? Hey, Jim, what do you love? Supercoach. What else do you love? More than anything, basically, apart from your family and tins, the NBA. Let's go. It's NBA Supercoach. There's a little bit of an intro chat. I think in terms of other stuff to do with it, you've got, all the trades that we've got to sort of deal with and the salary cap. A lot of this sort of like strategy down the line will be replacing the inevitable injuries and stuff, but also trying to jump on those cash cow burners that have come from nowhere, making sure we've got our right premiums from the very get-go, maybe just sort of tossing out the idea whether or not we start with Jokic or not when he has the 2 games in week 1, 3 games in week 2. I'm just saying, we'll see what happens. But I don't know. Are you brave enough to start with that Nikola Jokic? All right, there you go. That is a little bit of a quick chat about NBA Supercoach. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to be talking about it all the time on NBA Straya. Don't you worry about that. I'll be all over it on Jim Does SuperCoach as well. So jump on the socials, get around it. Facey, IG, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, all the stuff right there. I think these ones will be going up on the NBA Straya YouTube, so jump all around it. Either way, how good is NBA Supercoach? I'm stoked. You should be too. Let's go. This has been NBA Supercoach intro gear. This has been Jim Does SuperCoach. Happy super coaching.